Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, coming to you from the Overflow Room with a thrilling, absolutely thrilling announcement, because finally it has arrived. Yes, here it is. The Orpheus Chamber Orchestra box. 55 fun-filled CDs that we're going to tackle one at a time. You may recall I did a video called 10 box sets we desperately need, and this was one of the major ones that we desperately needed. That was last year. Last year around, May, June, just when we started. And sure enough, Deutsche Grammophon has obliged. Thank you, Deutsche Grammophon. Thank you, Universal. This is really a great set. And of course, many of you wrote and said, yeah, we really need to get that. So I don't need to tell you that you really need to get it, because here it is. It's just fabulous. And we're just going to go through it disc by disc and talk about its pluses and very, very few minuses. There's some amazing, amazing stuff in here, because the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra is quite simply one of the 2 or 3 great chamber orchestras in the universe today, along with, for example, the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen and a few other groups. They are marvelous. They are famous for playing without a conductor, and 99.9% of the time, you'd never miss them. Never in a million years, which really says something, doesn't it, about what those alleged podium maestros actually do. That's what's so great about this set. In addition to its incredible musical values, it should keep the industry humble. Of course it won't, but it should. It really should. Now, just let's talk about usually packaging. This is one of those jack-in-the-box universal cube things. It has that. Now, the jack-in-the-box universal cube, I think, was a design adopted for much the same reason as the Borg ships on Star Trek: The Next Generation, because basic cubes are quite utilitarian, and the universal cube is the same size no matter what goes into it, just as the Borg ships are the same size no matter what goes into it. And I don't think there's going to be any change in design anytime soon. Resistance is futile. We must simply assimilate the design here, because no matter how many discs it has, and 55 discs, as you can see here, is a little bit on the skimpy side for the amount of room in the cube. On the other hand, they did not bother to put in some sort of styrofoam thing, which will eventually disintegrate into sludge, or some sort of paper divider. You can come up with one yourself. You could stuff something in there if you don't want to have wiggle. The disc set does suffer from wiggle, but that's all right. We're going to be fine. Let me make my little set here, and let's talk about the 55 discs contained herein. First, you get a very nice booklet with all the discs and all the track listings. These are original jacket things for the most part, and one of the nice things about these, quite frankly, is that because they were all original digital releases, they were very full to begin with in terms of timings, and so they don't have to combine things, and you don't have to look at the booklet or look at the back or try and find what's on what, because things have been mixed up and retread. They could basically just release all the original CDs with the original covers, with the original content, and we're in business, and that's quite handy. I'm very glad that they were able to do that. So I'm going to open up the jack-in-the-box lid, grab the first stack. This gets us up to CD 12, and let us see where we wind up. You ready? First, and still one of their greatest discs, this thing, the Bartók Divertimento, Romanian Folk Dances, and Janáček's Mladi, Youth. A wonderful disc because it gets to show off the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra as a string ensemble and as a wind ensemble, or a wind sextet in the case of Mladi. So that's quite lovely, and it's fabulous, and we don't need to say anything more about it. Where am I going to put these things when I'm done with them? That's always a problem here, because I don't want to drop them all over the place, All right, next. The Creatures of Prometheus. Complete ballet, the whole kit and caboodle. On CD 2. Lovely, lovely performance. This was such a smart release, because at the time that this came out, which was 1986, wow, there weren't that many recordings of the complete Prometheus ballet, and it was Beethoven, but it wasn't overwhelmingly well-known Beethoven, aside from the overture, and this was just delicious, marvelous, and great to have. Next, oh gosh, this is a terrific. There's going to be a lot of this. Let's just assume it's all great. I'm going to just run through them more quickly, and if there's something that isn't great, I'll tell you, because this is a wonderful disc. The Prokofiev Classical Symphony, which is smashing, the Britten Simple Symphony, and the Bizet Symphony in C. And what's wonderful about this disc, sometimes the programming was very smart here, is that the Prokofiev and the Bizet sound amazingly alike, amazingly of the same school, because they're both in their way classical symphonies. They are self-consciously evoking the classical period. And it's amazing how these two composers came up with such similar, even thematic ideas. If you look at my Bizet Symphony in C talk, I think I do some A-B comparison quotations, or one of those videos where I did that, because it really is remarkable. So it's great to have these two things on the same disc where you can listen to them in tandem. It really illuminates both of them, and the performances are just smashing. And then we get Vivaldi and Boccherini cello concertos with Misha Maisky. Now, Misha Maisky and Orpheus did some wonderful, wonderful work together, and it's really very interesting to hear them in combination, because Maisky, as some of you may know, and I talked about this in my Maisky box, in which these also appear, so there's some duplication there. He was a heavy-duty, romantic, sweaty, kind of sometimes wayward, self-indulgent, emoting virtuoso. And actually, Vivaldi was too, believe it or not. So it might be that his performance of these works is extremely authentic. But you put them together with Orpheus, which is, of course, conductorless and severely classical and influenced by the historically informed performance movement. And the result is really quite fascinating. It can be either like putting chocolate sauce on asparagus, as Zell once said about his Mozart. When they asked him why it wasn't warmer and fuzzier like Bruno Walters, he said, I can't put chocolate sauce on asparagus. So some of you may feel this is chocolate sauce on the asparagus, or you may find the contrast very refreshing, as I do, quite frankly. I think it's actually rather interesting most of the time. So there you go. Oh, yes. Another classic. Copland, Appalachian Spring Suite, the short symphony, probably the best performance of that ever. Quiet City and the 3 Latin American sketches. Now, the amazing thing about this disc is that the short symphony was arranged by Copland as a sextet because it couldn't be played. It wasn't getting played because of its rhythmic intricacies. And for these guys to get together and do it without a conductor and to do it so fabulously well was really, really an achievement. And it really made a lot of us just sit up and take notice and go, wow, because this is at a time when people weren't doing this work, or if they did it, it was kind of messy. And this is the opposite of that. It is incredibly clean and clear and crisp and cool emotionally, and that's what the music is. I love the work. I adore the work. It's actually, although it's a little cool, it sounds to me more like Stravinsky with heart in his neoclassical phase. It's a great, great disc. So that's lots of fun. Dvořák Serenades, absolutely lovely. Just like the Bartók and Janáček disc, it's fantastic, and I don't need to say more about it. Yes, the English disc. Look at them all in white in front of the greenery. It's just so vernal looking. I always love it when they take classical musicians and stick them out somewhere in the wilderness, as if classical music was made to be played outside, which, aside from wind partitas and things, it absolutely never is. And string music particularly does not work in an outdoor setting. And so here we have an English disc of string music, or a disc of English string music, and it is actually excellent. The Elgar Introduction and Allegro, the Serenade for Strings, the Elegy for Strings, and RVW's Fantasia on Greensleeves and Fantasia on a Theme by Thomas Tallis. You will find warmer and more emotive performances of all of this music, not least from Sir John Barbaroli, or Constantine Silvestri, or all kinds of other people, but what the hell, It's slam bang playing. I think the introduction in Allegro goes particularly well here. It really does. It benefits from that sort of concerto grosso discipline that they bring to it. All right, what's this? Oh, a French disc. Pavane. Pavane. Le tombeau de Copland. Pavane pour un enfant défunt. The Pavane for a Dead Princess. Satie's Gymnopédies 3 and 1 in the classic Debussy orchestrations. And Fauré's Péléas et Mélisande Sicilienne. Oh, God, that's so beautiful. And the Pavane, which sounds just like the old Taster's Choice commercial. Remember, times like these were made for Taster's Choice. Well, that's the Fauré, but it could be the coffee ad, Taster's Choice coffee ad. And Masque et Bergamasque. Lovely. Lovely stuff. These early discs they did, they were so good. The Grieg disc, oh my goodness, which is falling out of its little sleeve. There we go, the Grieg disc. The Holberg Suite, 2 elegiac melodies, and the Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings. What is there to say? Self-recommending, beautiful, fabulous music. Then we have the Handel Concerti Grossi Opus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the last one. Okay, so on 3 discs. The way they did it, this is a slight recoupling here. Okay, so because they've added some stuff. All right, so you get the Concerti Grossi Opus 6, which is one of the great versions of that on modern instruments. And then you get the water music and the fireworks music along with the last of the Concerti Grossi Opus 6 in this particular case, which was just a slight recoupling, if my memory serves, because I have the Concerti Grossi. I think, in fact, I have them right over here. Well, I'm not going to go look, but I have them, and I think that's all that was there originally. They usually do 4 per disc or something, but they scrunched them together with the fireworks and the fireworks music and the water music. Yes, there we go. Next pile. All right, now we're getting into Haydn. Haydn, Haydn, some amazing Haydn. Here we go. The Philosopher and number 63, La Roxelane, and number 80, which I did a whole talk on. Number 80 is one of the funniest symphonies Haydn ever wrote. It's fantastic. There's a whole chat about it. It's in the sequel series after Gluck's Dance of the Furies. And Haydn, which Haydn lampoons in the symphony in the first movement. Boy, these performances are hot. Hot, hot, hot. They have never been bettered. They are fast and crisp and exciting as hell. This is a disc that everybody should have. Remember, 22, The Philosopher, 63, La Roxelane, and 80. And 80, just go here. Just go listen to 80. If you have some time, right now, turn me off. Go listen to Symphony number 80. It's going to be a long time before we get to it in the Haydn Symphony Crusade. Do it now. It's an incredible, wonderful work. All right. The 44 Symphony, Mourning, as in death, not mourning as in Peer Gynt. And then number 77, which is also an amazingly fabulous work. So those are lovely. And we have the Farewell Symphony and number 81, which no one ever talks about, and which is also delicious. And they have empty music stands. Get it? It's a farewell. Those are wonderful. And we have here Maria Theresia. Oh, is that a hot one? That's the one with those fabulous C horns going do 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 ba da da ba 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 da 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 ba da da ba 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 ba. That's wonderful. And then La Passione, one of the great Sturm und Drang symphonies. It's in F minor, which was Haydn's personal minor key. These are all just wonderful, wonderful, crisp, sharp, lean, and mean performances that belong in every serious Haydn collection. I wish they would release the Haydn Symphony separately. Now that I got my Orpheus box, how about an Orpheus Haydn box, a separate one? Ooh, wouldn't that be fun? And this one, 53, 73, 79, L'Imperiale and La Chasse, the Hunt Symphony. These Hunt movements, boy, they take them at a blistering pace. I actually think it's a bit too fast. In Haydn's day, it would have been a little slower and a little more rustically Hunty-like. But still, I mean, I'm not quibbling. Yeah, I'm quibbling, but that's all I'm doing is quibbling. I'm not going to do anything more than quibble. Then we have 60 and 91. 60 is the Distracted in 6 movements. It's actually a suite of incidental music, and it's hilariously funny. And the Armida Overture, which is a rarity, and 91, which is a rarity, which is also very, very lovely. It is the one right between Well, it's between 90 and 92, obviously, because it's 91, but it's just before the Oxford Symphony. And 90 is Haydn's last great C major symphony with high horns and trumpets. It's a great series. And 91 is the odd man out, and it should not be, because it's lovely. And here we have 78 and 102. Now, 78 is a very interesting symphony in C minor, not, the Beethoven hysterical C minor, the Haydnesque, minor key as spice C minor that was originally written for a trip to England that never happened at the time, and it's a wonderful work. 102 strikes me as the one of the less successful Haydn performances in this series. It just needs to be bigger. It needs to be bolder, more Beethoven-like. I mean, I think about Klemperer's performance of 102, and it sort of spoiled me for all the others, because this is the most Beethoven-ish of all the Haydn symphonies, and it really needs a conductor, and it really needs a lot of rhetorical emphasis that these guys just aren't going to do. That's the symphony that shows what conductors are for and why they're necessary. It's not terrible, but it isn't as punchy and grand enough as the music can be. But 78 is wonderful. And in a 55 CD box, you're not going to care. And then we have these great Charles Ives disc. 3 Places in New England in its chamber version. The Unanswered Question, a set of pieces, Symphony number 3, orchestral set number 1. Oh, wonderful, wonderful Ives disc. I love these Ives collections. The music's just so much fun. It's so colorful and rambunctious, and they get it. They just get it. Then Summer Evening. Kodai, the Hungarian Rondo, the Summer Evening, and then the Joseph Suk Serenade in E major. Great disc, not the most played repertoire, and fantastically worth hearing. Mendelssohn, Kremer and Argerich. I mean, when you have, Martha Argerich on the piano, and even Kremer, at this point in his career, this was when, 1989 or something like that, 88, everyone in great shape. And, Orpheus is along for the ride. Essentially, they accompany wonderfully these 2, high-power soloists. This is the Concerto for Violin and Piano and String Orchestra in D minor. If you don't know that piece, you should hear it. Mendelssohn wrote it when he was negative 14 years old or something, and when he was still a zygote, and it's really, really good. And the early violin concerto also is also in D minor, and it's a lovely work. An absolutely lovely work. Well worth hearing. Nobody pays attention to it. And then we have, these are not in chronological order of release because this is quite recent, 2018. Yeah, because they're doing Mendelssohn with the Mendelssohn stuff. Jan Lisiecki, Jan Lisiecki, let's say that's the way to do it. The Mendelssohn Piano Concertos and the Italian Symphony, the first international release. The Italian Symphony I actually just played, and it was lots of fun, as you might expect. But the piano concertos I reviewed for Classics Today. I thought that the orchestral performance was a bit stiff. Lisiecki is a very, very fine pianist. I also thought his contribution was a little too neoclassical pokey. These are proto-romantic works. They need to be played with a little bit more warmth and a little bit more pure virtuoso gusto, and a certain legato, a little bel canto quality would not be amiss. Even in the quick movements, the big comparisons being, Rudolf Serkin and the Jean-Yves Thibaudet du Trois discs. This is not as good as those, but it's not by any means terrible. It's very listenable. It's enjoyable. Then we get 3 fabulous Mendelssohn symphonies for strings, numbers 8, 9, and 10. Oh, these are wonderful works. If you don't know the Mendelssohn String Symphonies, you must hear them. I will be doing a video on them. Haven't yet, but it's coming because they are just unbelievably great pieces and amazing pieces, astonishing pieces in their way. So yes, get these Mendelssohn String Symphonies. You're going to love them. Oh, now we get Mozart. Let me get all the Mozart stuff because Mozart is a large chunk of this discography. Wow. Whoa. Okay, here's Mozart. Now, Mozart is on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 discs. You get 10 full discs, which I dropped this thing, 10 full discs of Mozart, which is really lots of Mozart, including all the wind concertos. Here's the clarinet concerto and horn concertos 1 and 4. And we'll talk about these things sort of as a clump. Then you get horn concertos 2 and 3 with the oboe concerto and the bassoon concerto. And then you get Flute Concerto number 1 and the Flute and Harp Concerto. And these concertos, I mean, they're amazingly well played by all the soloists in wonderful, crisp and clean and unboring performances. The nice thing about these performances is that they have that kind of period instrument-y type sharpness and flow to them and impulse, but they're not cold. They're just not cold, and they don't sound edgy, and the intonation isn't iffy, and they sound really, really good. Then we get Eine kleine Nachtmusik, and the Divertimenti in E-flat major, K252, and the Divertimento in D major. You know, lovely early Mozart, divertingly played, because they're Divertimenti. Really terrific Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Again, very, very driving and exciting, unusually exciting. It's not just cutesy poo. It's really sounds like it means something, which is always good when music means something. Then we get 2 more divertimenti with the Serenata Notturna. These are all these early Mozart divertimentos. You know, you've got that wonderful Sándor Végh box on Capriccio, which ought to be sort of your go-to Mozart divertimento set, because they will probably never be equaled as performances, but these are, in their way, just about as good. I don't think they have quite, Vegh's feeling of humanity and the long singing line. That's just so wonderful in everything he did. But they are extremely well done, elegant, shapely, smart musical performances. So, there you go. Oh, yes, the Grand Partita, with some fantastic woodwinds. There's so many great performances of this work because it is, of course, the greatest piece ever written for wind ensemble. And wind ensembles have to do it. And most of them know what they're dealing with. It's kind of like Mahler's Ninth or some of these other works where you know that the players will always give their best because, first of all, the music is such a joy for them to perform. And second of all, because it's such great music that they wouldn't dare do anything less. And so they don't. It's a grand partita. And then we have the 2 other wind serenades in E-flat major and C minor, just as good as the grand partita. And the Sinfonia Concertante, the one for violin and viola, with soloists from Orpheus doing the violin and viola in E-flat major, K364, and the Sinfonia Concertante in E-flat major, that's the wind one. Are these both the wind ones? I don't know. No, 364 is the right one, isn't it? Or are they both wind? No, I don't know. I'm getting myself a little bit tripped up here. Hang on one second. Let me double check so I make sure I know what I'm talking about. Okay, we're back. Yeah, let me get that straight. Yes, of course, Koelschel 364 is the one for violin and viola. You know, the thing that throws me off is that it said K364, then 320D. And sometimes they include these things and sometimes they don't. And since they didn't list the soloists, I don't want to get out of whack. You never quite know when you're dealing with Koelschel's catalog what you're getting. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's the one for violin and viola, and I have the bookie here, and the soloists are Todd Phillips on violin and Maureen Gallagher on viola. It happens to be, since I took a little time in the pause to listen to some of it again, it happens to be a wonderful performance that is particularly noted for its wonderful chamber-like interchanges between the 2 soloists and the soloists in the orchestra, because there's no conductor, and it's wonderful. And the other one is the famous one for 4 winds, which is probably not by Mozart, or not entirely by Mozart. It's oboe, clarinet, horn, and bassoon. There's a lot of controversy about that. I remember the first time I heard the wind Symphonia Concertante by Mozart, and I just listened to it and said, that's not Mozart. No way is that Mozart. It's got such bad orchestration in places. It really does. And it just isn't. But nowadays they say it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it to me. Okay, Mozart Symphonies 29, 33, and 40. Everyone will have their favorite versions of these. These are usual. It's their Mozart. It's that wonderful, clean, bracing, unfussy, unsentimental, perhaps a tad stiff and mechanical. Maybe a little conducting wouldn't have been amiss in the great G minor symphony. But again, it's very much of its type, of its period, of modern taste, as it were. And so there you go. And finally, in Mozart, we have A Little Night Music, which does not contain A Little Night Music. You get the musical joke, and then you get a bunch of little short thingies, songs and dances and a march and some other little cute little Mozart bits. And they're lovely. They're just lovely. It's a fun Mozart collection. And I love the cover. The old Mozart hot air balloon, you know. That's really, really nice. I wish I had a hot air balloon like that. That would really be cool, you know. All right. Now, next pile, we are up to, this is the last stack, but it's a big one, so get ready. We're up to 35. So it's 20 discs to go. Respighi, Ancient Airs and Dances, 3 Botticelli pictures, The Birds. One of the great Respighi records in the history of Respighidom. You must have it. You must listen to it every 10 minutes for the rest of your life, especially the Botticelli pictures. Oh, God, I love that piece, especially the second movement that has, you know, the Veni, Veni, Emmanuel, Captivum Solve Israel. It's gorgeous. 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 And then, Rodrigo, the Concerto di Aranjuez, the Fantasia para un gentil hombre, and the Villalobos guitar concerto with Goran Silcher. Yeah, fun. And it's, you know, the Villalobos is not so easy to find anymore, so that's really nice to get too, to have. And is this a classic? Rossini Overtures. Rossini Overtures played with absolutely insane precision. And Rossini requires insane precision, and they give it to him. Boy, is this fun. Especially, La Scala di Seta, the silken ladder. It's hilarious. One of the funniest and most delicious overtures that Respighi ever wrote, and boy, just to hear them chirp and chatter their way through it. And you don't get William Tell, because it's too big for this ensemble, which is wonderful. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 Rossini overtures. You do get the Barber of Seville and Tancredi and the Italian Woman in Algiers and a whole bunch of others. Il Signor Bruscino, where you get to tap your music stands with your bows. It's fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Oh, God, I love this record. This is one of those things that, you know, you put it on. It's great road music. Put it on in your car when you're driving. It will get you there so much more quickly. It's amazing. Saint-Saëns, Cello Concerto No. 1, and the Cello Sonata No. 1, and bits of the Carnival of the Animals, the Allegro Appassionato, the Romance in F major, and the Suite, Opus 16. This is with Maisky again, and Orpheus, and in numbers, let's see, 12 through 14, which is 12, the Cello Sonata in C minor, Daria Hovora, piano. A wonderful disc. A lovely, lovely disc. I mean, it's wonderful music. Saint-Saëns is so underrated, and his music is so much fun. And this is Saint-Saëns cello music is quite a wildly varied program. Nice, very nice to have. And Maisky is not sloppy and slovenly at all in this performance. His performance is quite tasteful, I think. And here, yes, another classic. How many can we have? I'm suffering from classic overload. It's just killing me. There's just too many good records in here. Schoenberg, Verklärte Nacht, and a very wonderful, unsticky Verklärte Nacht, which I always have problems with. And the 2 chamber symphonies, numbers 1 and 2. Great to have them together on a disc so that you can hear them both and compare. They come from opposite ends of Schoenberg's career, and they're both really splendid works, although people generally like one better than 2. I like them both personally, and a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Schoenberg record, especially for people who are not committed Schoenbergians, because all of the music's really quite approachable and still very characteristic. And never easy, because Schoenberg is never easy, no matter how he's writing. Classical hits. Okay, it had to happen. Classical hits. You get, the Hofstetter, used to be Haydn Opus 3 Serenade, Gluck dances from Orpheus and Eurydice, Michael Haydn's Notturno in F major, the Boccherini String Quintet Minuet, you know, do 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 do. It's wonderful. The whole quintet is wonderful, by the way, if you ever want to hear it. And then you get a bit of Eine kleine Nachtmusik and a bit of The Creatures of Prometheus and a bit of Mendelssohn's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is nice, the intermezzo and the nocturne, and Schubert's Rosamunde music without the overture, the entr'acte and the shepherd's tune and the 2 ballet sequences. It's a really nice disc, a nice collection. It's a serious collection of classical hits. You know what I mean? It's not junk. And they're well chosen and well contrasted for continuous listening. It's good if you're in a waiting room. It helps you wait. Schumann. This is more Schumann with Maisky and Argerich. This was a famous record when it came out. It really, really was. You get the Schumann Cello Concerto, a piece that I really can't stand, but this is really a good performance of it. Again, the leaner and more shapely the accompaniments. It doesn't really matter how wayward the cello is. And Maisky actually puts a lot of juice into the piece. I think it works very, very well. And then you get a whole pile of stuff. The Adagio and Allegro, the Fantasia-Stücke, the Romanza, and the 5 pieces in Volkstone, and all that stuff with Martha Argerich. And who is going to complain about that? I mean, it's also in the Maisky box. It's also in the Argerich box. It's also in the box. It's in every box and every, pick a box, any box. Take the box. Another fabulous, fabulous disc. Richard Strauss, his Divertimento, based on pieces by Couperin. It's a late work, and it is just delicious. There's this dance suite after pieces by Couperin, and then the Divertimento, and then he jammed the two of them together to make a ballet in the 1940s or 50s. He died in 48, so it couldn't have been the 50s, could it? But called Faded Festivals, Verklugene Feste, something like that. And he mixed them all together. But these are delicious neoclassical arrangements coupled with the bourgeois gentilhomme music, which is the Der Bürger als Edelmann here, but we all call it the bourgeois gentilhomme, and it's just fabulous music, as we know. And the dance suite in the Divertimento, in this case the Divertimento, are so little known, and they deserve to be better known because they are wonderful, and this is the best performance it's ever had. So there you are. And then we get more Richard Strauss, the 2 sonatinas, from the workplace of an invalid and then the happy workplace. Both of them, they are long. Oh, God, they are long. They were Strauss's answer to the Grand Partita. And some people think that they're marvelous, and some people think that they're simply empty noodling. I have thought both. It really depends on the performance, but this performance is one that pushes me more towards the delightful side and less toward the empty noodling side. You will have to be the choice, the person who gives it your own perspective. Stravinsky. Now we get the Stravinsky stuff is really first rate. I mean, these people were made to play Stravinsky. The Pulcinella Suite, which is the sharpest, most incisive, most sizzling Pulcinella Suite you've ever heard. This was one of their earliest ever recordings. I don't even think it was originally on Deutsche Grammophon. I seem to recall it coming out somewhere else, somehow. Maybe someone will remind me. But maybe it was. I don't know. But it was recorded in 1982. It's early. And Dumbarton Oaks and the 8 instrumental miniatures. And then you get this shadow dance thing where the major work here is the Concerto in D and the 2 suites for small orchestra and the tango and the concertino, and you get the octet, which is oodles of fun, and 3 pieces for string quartet, and then preludium and ragtime, and a duet called Song Without Name, and the fanfare for a new theater, and the scherzo alla Russe. A wonderful, wonderful collection of short, miniature Stravinsky bits and neoclassical fun-filled hoogies. And you'll never have a better Stravinsky hoogie disc. It's just terrific. And now, oh, yes, Orpheus. Glorious recording of Orpheus and the Danse Concertante. Another just self-recommending. That's the word. It's self-recommending. Isn't it just almost boring to hear me talk about how great these are one after the other? I wish I could make it more exciting by crapping all over some of these, but maybe there's one in here, I don't know. But it really is just astonishing. The level of quality, the consistent level of excellence, and the interest in the repertoire and the intelligence of the presentation, it just makes you go, Mwah, we love you, Orpheus. Tchaikovsky, Rococo Variations, Lenski's aria, Nocturne, Andante Cantabile, the Souvenir de Florence. Now, the Souvenir de Florence is what this is worth having for. I think the Rococo Variations are a snooze. I don't think Maisky's performance of them is anything terribly special. The other stuff is ephemeral, and so Souvenir de Florence is what's gonna float your boat here. This is not a necessary disc. I mean, there we go. I managed to say something qualified. I'm so happy now. Now I feel balanced, because if you don't say something bad after you say something good, then you're not balanced. You're not being a real critic to hear some people talk. My feeling about it is the same feeling I used to have when I was teaching at Stanford, and I would go in the first day of class, and I was teaching history, and I would say, look, I expect all of you to get A's. If you don't all get A's, I haven't done my job, because it's my job to impart knowledge to you. And if I've imparted that knowledge to you, you will get an A, unless you don't do the work. If you don't do the work, well, that's not my problem. But, I never believed in grading on curves. And as a critic, I never believed that either. I think you call it as you hear it. And if you get 55 fabulous discs, then damn it, you get 55 fabulous discs, and you better say so. That's my view. So, anyway, a little bit of philosophy there, just to break things up. The Four Seasons with Gil Shaham and the Chrysler Violin Concerto with the style of Vivaldi. It's in the Gil Shaham box. It's a very good Four Seasons. Who cares? We don't need another one unless you want Gil Shaham, in which case, frankly, it's better to get it in the Shaham box, but they have to include it because this is an Orfeo box. Then we get Patrick Galois doing Vivaldi Flute Concerti of Opus 10, numbers 1 through 6, including the Tempest at Sea and La Notte and Il Giardellino, which is like the garden warbler, or the finch thing. It's a bird. And I don't really care which one. Please don't tell me. Just don't. Don't even make me go through the tedium of having to erase you telling me which one it is. And they are lovely, absolutely lovely performances of delightful works. I mean, everybody loves Vivaldi's flute concertos. Weber with Charles Neidich, clarinet. The Weber clarinet concerti, which are just delightful, and the clarinet concertino, which is delightful, and the Rossini introduction, theme, and variations for clarinet and orchestra, which is even more delightful. In sum, we're on disc 50. It's delightful, and I'm running out of ways to say that. So thank God we're on disc number 50. Wagner and Sibelius, Siegfried Idyll, Sibelius, Valse Triste, Berlioz, Reverie and Caprice, Dvořák, Notturno. Oh, the Nocturno is great. Oh, it's beautiful. Puccini, Chrysanthemums, Hugo Wolf, Italian Serenade, and Torina, La Oración del Torero. Really a nice collection. It's really a good collection. I mean, these collections were put together with some care and thoughtfulness as to the repertoire and the arrangement thereof. Then we have a Baroque one. Yes, these are last ones are like clippy things, little things. Baroque stuff, Pachelbel's Canon, Albinoni's Adagio, Bach, Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring, the Purcell Shakati in G minor, Bach's Aero to G string, Corelli Christmas Concerto, Handel's Symphonia from Solomon, and the Largo from Xerxes, the world's most famous aria written to a tree. Yes, it is sung to a tree, because Xerxes is in love with a tree. Most people don't realize that this haunting, gorgeous melody is a joke. It's a joke, folks. But, of course, the joke is that it's such a haunting and gorgeous melody. You have to see it. You'll get it if you see it. And then Vivaldi's Concerto in B minor for 4 violins. Okay, it's Baroque. It's nice. It's Baroque. I mean, you know the deal. Gil Shaham, Romance. It's in the Gil Shaham disc. Happens to be a wonderful program, I have to say. But I talk about it in the Gil Shaham box, so I don't have to do it here. Then we get the disc 54, the modern music disc that has music by people that most people wouldn't even want, but this is really great. You should want this. It has some fabulous works. Fred Laerdal's Waves, Jacob Druckmann, who I love, he's a great composer, Nor Spell Nor Charm, and then William Bolcom, who is a real character, the Orpheus Serenade, which is delightful, and then Michael Gandolfini's Points of Departure. This is not your average horrible contemporary music pain and suffering disc. There's real music on here, and four really nicely contrasted pieces by composers with very, very different but very personal styles. I mean, you're going to want to listen to this. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. And then finally, last but not least, totally in the opposite world, Andreas Scholl sings folk songs, Wayfaring Strangers. Wayfaring Stranger, Andreas Scholl, he's one of the best countertenors out there. I would sooner die than listen to that stuff. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Creepy countertenor, falsetto voice singing these lovely folk songs. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I don't want to think about it. Maybe not the best way to end the 55 discs, but I don't care. 54 of them are just about fabulous, or 53. It's probably the best batting average you will ever hear in your life coming from me in a 50-plus disc set. It really is unbelievably hard to beat. You are going to want it. You already know you want it. I'm delighted to have it. I'll probably spend the rest of the week listening to it and rediscovering some of the things that I haven't heard in a while. And because I didn't play all 55 discs before talking about this, obviously, I knew a lot of them and listened to some of them and actually just listened to a few more. And it's just been reinforcing my contention that this is one of the best discs of classical music to be stuffed into a box in many, many, many a moon. So thank you, DG. Thank you, Orpheus. Go get 'em. There you go. Fantastic. Keep on listening, folks. I appreciate your time, your attention, your enthusiasm, your willingness to listen, and you will be rewarded if you get this set. Take care.